Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Constitutional Crisis Podcast. We're here with your host, Marquise Smalls, and the wonderful John Michael Reefer. And we'll be digging into this Constitution so that we can help people understand better what we're dealing with today. John, how you doing today, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. It's good to see you. Good to be here with you. This is such an important issue. I'm so glad that we're able to help bring the audience in on how important it is to understand what's happening. You know, last time we talked about the Constitution. We talked about Article One, which is the thing that gives Congress its authority. And I don't know if people really understand what those authorities are, and the fact that one of those authorities is oversight over both the judicial and the executive branch. Um, Other things are the regulation of commerce, which we discovered as of this taping on what's today's date?
Today's date is
29th.
May 29th.
So as of the 29th, we learned that there's a three-judge panel that said that the Trump administration can't use its fake emergency powers of fentanyl to regulate tariffs.
Yeah.
So he didn't he didn't have the authority to begin with. He made up a fake he made fake access to the authority, and now the courts have said this is ridiculous. You can't do that.
Well, yeah, and again, I think this is where it's important that people learn what's in the Constitution because that's exactly what the judges are all going to refer to when they're making their rulings. And if they're doing their job correctly, then the answers are already in the document.
Right.
Like like it says, like, dude, Congress gets to levy taxes, create tariffs, like collect money, not the president.
Not
So
the president. I mean, the other power of the Congress, the other authority granted the Congress is authority of immigration and naturalization. So the Congress is imbued with the power to make the rules of who can come here, who can stay here, under what parameters they can stay. The Congress is the one to make that adjudication. Uh,
yeah, that's Section 8.
yeah,
Section 8. And I know, for some of us New York City people, we know Section 8 really well.
well, Section 8 Act is a federal program. I don't know. We'll have to look into the jurisdiction of that, but I think it's incredible that the executive branch is overstepping making up lines and then overstepping them to meet the ends of their policy prescriptions, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, so I'm gonna share my screen just so the audience can see. Like when you look at Section 8, you pretty much can tell right here where it says what you were just talking about to establish the uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. So even his birthright citizenship claim is, ridiculous, where
Yeah,
he's going into all these things that I feel like, again, once you dig into the document, you'll see that a lot of these things he's going to lose on, which is why I'm really starting to feel like a lot of it is also smokescreen for what they're really getting done behind the scenes right now with all the access through Doge and accessing all of our financial records and all of our social security numbers and all of our personal information as well as just legacies and all the different things. So we'll see how that all plays itself out. But in the meantime, we got to hope that the courts continue to stand up because, as we talked about earlier, the Congress is not standing up at all.
the Congress is, as I said before, the Congress is abdicating its responsibility. I think, again, if this current administration is aligned with Congress and they are uh, pro proclaiming they have a mandate because of the president's election, then do it properly. And I submit that Congress is sleeping on the job of not implementing the proper rules and the proper procedures to enact policy that's long lasting. Because you know the policy that they're doing now, the way the administration is doing policy, it's going to get shot down. So the American people are going to incur the expense of the bad policy and then the correction of the bad policy. The number of lawsuits we are going to have to pay for all of the people improperly deported because they did it against the rules of the Constitution. Who knows how much in the end of this 4 years, who knows how many people will be deported erroneously, find justice in the courts, and be able to sue the United States for illegal business. Just you didn't have the right to do that. You did it. You caused me pain and suffering, and the courts will agree with that because they did it illegally. Who knows the untold amount of taxpayer dollars that will go to these lawsuits?
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be an interesting conundrum down the road. And it also could be something where, in a best case scenario, the next administration, not being like this one, God willing, um, will figure out a pathway to recompensating and making those people who were impacted indiscriminately and unjustly, making them whole again. Because you would like to think that there will be some kind of effort to bring those people back, as well as to then set them up with the years on their lives that they've missed because of this,
Yeah.
this administration.
I think one of the things that my understanding from what I've read, uh, the power of impeachment is also lies with the Congress,
Yes.
and we, the Republicans, have voiced some concern that if they lose the House and the Senate, that he could be impeached, and so he's doing he's making maneuvers to try to protect both the margins in the House and the Senate in order to protect him from impeachment because he knows what he's doing is wrong.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no doubt. They're going to try to insulate themselves as much as possible. There is going to be no stone unturned, no executive order not put into place
Yes.
that they think is going to help them maintain power and control beyond the next 2 years first, and then the next presidential election in 4 years. But I want to actually speak to that 2 year thing because that's also something that people don't understand. Like in the very first, well, actually in the second section, after the first section names Congress as the legislative powers, the very next paragraph in the Constitution in Section 2 talks about the House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people. You
Yeah,
know
yeah,
what I mean? So here's a good moment for everyone to understand. Like whenever people say like, and this is where it really pisses me off that people will say like, "Oh, my vote doesn't count," and it's like, which vote are you talking about? Are you talking about your vote for your school board? Or are you talking about your vote for your legislatures? Or are you talking about your vote for your governor, your mayor? Or are you talking about the vote just for president? Like, what are you talking about that your vote doesn't count? So people need to understand every 2 years, you get to vote for the legislators in your congressional district, your House of Representatives, people that are the ones who are abdicating their responsibility right now, can be voted out in 2026.
that's correct. That's absolutely correct. Uh,
So people need to really start understanding what we're talking about here and get into this document so that they could see like how you can never or never should say out your mouth that you believe your vote does not count. Because again, what vote are you talking about? That would be my question to anybody that says that from here on out. Is like,
yeah.
which one are you talking about? Like,
Well, I think we need to maybe the approach to voting, we need to redefine that. Like you're suggesting, your city council, your mayor, your governor, state assembly, state legislature. I think you need to be more uh, clear about who those people are, what those policies are, how those policies impact you. I think one exercise people might want to consider is maybe turning off the news, turning off the radio, turning off the internet, and sit with yourself, with your family, and think about the things that are important to you and your life. What do you want to achieve? What are things that are hindering you? And make the assessment of all the things that you want that are out of your reach, all the things that you would like to see changed. I think you should take those lists and measure those against the Constitution, and maybe it'll be easier to um, not get hustled and not get pushed by the propaganda. Because what is in your actual real life that you think is important that the Constitution factors into? And I don't know if we're making that easy correlation every day
Oh,
about
definitely not.
what our lives are like. So I would encourage our listeners to really think about what's important to you, what impacts your life positively that you want to maintain, and what are the things that impact your life negatively that you want to have changed, and think about your relationship to those things and what the Constitution says is appropriate and not appropriate as to how we live under this democratic republic.
There you go. And speaking right to that too, just to galvanize some of our younger people who may or may not, understand what's going on today. I'm gonna show y'all this, where it says right here, no person shall be a representative who shall not have attained the age of 25 years. So for those of you young people that really want to make a difference and you're in your locality and you want to run for a congressional district, you don't have to be old. You can be 25 years old and run. Like that's the minimum age for Congress, right? And have been 7 years a citizen. Of course, you got to be a citizen of the United States for at least 7 years, and then also shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state in which he shall be chosen. So you have to make sure that if you're doing local stuff, you want to be living in that state. If you do get appropriated and elected to the House of Representatives, and of course, obviously, you're going to have to move to DC to be in those meetings, but you still can maintain your residence in your home state. So, people, please take action to start getting into some of these races, especially if you believe you can make a difference and engage in these crazy hard discussions that we're having around all these issues that will be affecting us and your future.
Yeah, I think it's really important for young people to recognize they have a role to play in how we're governed and what's important. I mean, I think the older electorate, um, they care about Social Security, they care about Medicaid and Medicare, and those are important issues.
And they care about their IRAs and their
That's right. They care
the
about that.
stock market portfolios. That's
They,
what they care about,
they
which
care.
again is where we're kind of totally misaligned with where most of us should be caring not just about that, but also about the longevity and how we're treating our planet, how we're treating each other as human beings, how we're creating environments that people want to thrive and enjoy. So like there's so many things that we overlook because of these capitalist um, colonizing ways of thinking. And we got to break that. The only way to break that, like America doesn't have to be built on capitalism and colonization. Like it really doesn't. Or war. It doesn't.
Or
Like,
war, or
yeah.
war. Yeah,
And we just haven't tried it yet.
we definitely have not tried it yet. I think young people running for office will bring a broader scope of ideas and policies that are helpful. I mean, one of the constituents that's really at the outside of this is the disabled community, and
Uh-huh.
I think young people are who are challenged by the many disabilities we have, those people should be encouraged and supported to run for office to bring those issues front and center in these conversations. Any policy enacted that encourages and supports the disabled helps every single one of us.
Exactly.
And the broad example that many people point to is the curb cuts. And as a result of the curb cuts, your grandmother and her shopping cart get by, the mother with the stroller gets by, as well as the person with the wheelchair and the person whose sight is impaired. So young people from all walks of life, all demographics, should definitely begin to um, look at who the incumbent is in their district, and if that person is not actively supporting a better life for you and the rest of those citizens, you should really consider taking the step and running for office. Because
Right.
the rules are set up for you to join us in this fight for democracy.
Exactly. And just to add to that now, so that's House of Representatives, right? And how you can become a member and help to uphold this Constitution. If you want to be in the Senate, you actually had to be 30 years old. and still have not well and have 9 years of citizenship in the United States. Um, so that's just a slight variance on how they differentiate between the two houses of Congress. And that senators definitely they want you to have more experience and more time in the country, which makes sense because the senators there's only two in each state and 100 max.
That's right.
Whereas in the
So,
House of Representatives, you're talking about 435, and all of that is based off the population of each state.
right, which means that the census, which is an important um, function of our government, it's very important that that's accurate. But I would say of the Senate that if you run for the House of Representatives, you do your first term, and maybe you jump over to the Senate and open the door for someone to come behind you and run for the House. I think it's really important that we really, really tell all the young people listening and people who know young people they should participate in this process.
Oh, for sure.
They should every and the young people, people who are 25 years old, 30 years old in this particular culture have so many tools at their disposal that we didn't have in 1975, we didn't have in 1980, maybe we had in 1990 in terms of the internet, social media, platforms. So I think it's really important
He
that
was
we
on Black
understand.
Planet, John. That's when we was back on Black Planet, right?
That's right. So I think we can really
MySpace. Remember
my,
MySpace?
MySpace. Um, you know, I think we this the Constitution is a living, breathing governance of this country. Uh, it can be amended at some point.
Right.
It's a complicated process to do that, but it's not impossible. So, but I think if you begin to really understand what rights the document affords you, uh, and take the steps to exercise those rights, we won't be at this constant disadvantage of sort of an elite ruling class making a decision about what's important. I think we've talked about before, the Congress has not been receptive to the American people's interest in creating a safer environment in regard to guns and gun violence. Um, the other issue that's really just
Climate too. Like
climate
there's
change.
been multitude of issues that the Congress has not been receptive to the public and really looking out for our interests since civil rights was enacted. Like if you go back and really do it, if anybody goes back and do a deep dive into most of the policies that have come out of Congress have been very destructive to communities, especially certain communities,
That's
and
right.
very few except for possibly during the Clinton and Obama years, have been productive in helping young people. Because particularly with Clinton and his AmeriCorps initiative, I know that that helped me specifically as a young college graduate coming out, being able to move into education as a profession, even though I wasn't a education major and still get service credit and some help with my student loans as a part of that program. And I know many, many people actually, also benefited from that AmeriCorps program. And then Obama with helping young people stay on healthcare through the Affordable Care Act,
That's right.
26. Like, so if you really look at the facts of the matter, then it's not really a fair conversation even about what sides have been more proactive when it comes to uplifting, communities. It's just really about, the whole notion of how the Republicans have gained this reputation of being more fiscally conscious. And I think that things are playing themselves out to show you right now they're clearly not that because they're about to try to push through a $4.2 trillion deficit addition for some maintaining some tax cuts for the richest people in the world, which out of still again, that's not for the average person as you're just talking about.
Right. I think what we need to have, what's really important for viewers and listeners to understand, this Constitution affords us many, many privileges. We need to understand what they are and enforce them. And the politicians that are currently elected, we need to hold their feet to the fire. And if in fact they are unwilling to listen to our pleas for a better life, then individuals and collectively, we need to mount campaigns to take back this legislative body and enter it. I think what we've seen is there's a young gentleman from, I believe, Florida. His name is escaping me. Uh, and then Andrew Ocasio-Cortez, as well as Jasmine Crockett, have invigorated the political process and have brought to the table some of the really serious issues that people want to address. And the Congress as a body has been very reluctant to address those issues sufficiently. And
Well, yeah,
we really need to have people who are willing to really fight this process and get the kinds of results that the American people absolutely need, as opposed to what we're getting, which is very often we're getting half measures. We're getting the lobbyist version of what kind of works for the electorate and what really works for large corporations and the elite.
yeah, it all goes back to that whole trickle down theory mentality of like the rich people just think that because they're rich and they're in control, that it'll all trickle down to everybody else and everybody else will be better off. But again, I think we have enough evidence to show how that alone is just a ridiculous cycle of maintaining the current status quo and then in a lot of cases disenfranchising people even further and creating bigger wealth gaps, is as you can see from now some of the richest billionaires having hundreds of billions of dollars, and even corporate CEOs who are making millions and millions of dollars, and the workers are barely making minimum wage. And so these things are only being exacerbated by that. And really quickly, before we move into something else, as far as the next section I want to get into, I wanted to just go back to a point you made earlier around the whole notion of amending the Constitution, because as we're encouraging people to get involved in these elections and run for office and primary people and just make sure that their voices are heard on a consistent basis, the other side of that amendment, point is that the amendments don't always have to be amendments that are good for the people. Like,
Absolutely,
there's been many
absolutely.
amendments that have been made that have disenfranchised, even going back to the Fugitive Slave Act
Yeah,
of 1850. And those are examples of where if you continue to let this Congress be led by people, and particularly this executive branch and the way that they've all coalesced and the way they're doing their business, and you're going to see it shake itself out. If you're going to let them get to the point where they may actually ever get to a critical mass of being able to get a filibuster proof amendment through, then that's where you're really going to be in trouble. So that's another reason why you want to maintain as much power in the government as you can. And that's why, we're really truly encouraging people to dig into this document and then make any kind of runs you can in your local neighborhoods and your local House of Representatives districts, and definitely making sure that you're participating in the voting cycles throughout the country, especially for these next few important years.
it's very important. The other thing I'd like to just to touch on is you mentioned trickle down economics, and I really want our viewers and listeners to think about this. The richest person in the world is probably Vladimir Putin. So I just want to make sure that people are not confused about what's going on. But the richest Americans that we're aware of, they do not drive this economy. They do not create enough jobs, and they don't consume enough for the level of praise that they are lauded with, because the richest people that we know in this country, celebrities, athletes, they can only buy 6 cars, 7 cars, 8 cars. Maybe they could buy 100 cars. So if you take the economic theory that someone that everyone loves, LeBron James, even if LeBron James bought 100 cars, LeBron James is not able to drive 100 cars at a time. So even his 100 car purchase is not going to buy enough fuel to run the economy in Los Angeles, or was he in Chicago before? No, what city?
LeBron,
Yeah, what city did he play in before?
before he was in Cleveland before he went to.
So So
LA.
the economies of Los Angeles and the economies of Cleveland, even if he had 100 cars and split the 2 cars between Cleveland and Los Angeles, he's not going to buy enough fuel, enough tires, enough oil filters, enough windshield wipers to support an economy. And if we, if we're not careful and we keep our eye off the ball, this economy in America is a consumer-based economy. We need this economy runs because everybody's parents needs to buy a washing machine every 5 years. They need to buy a refrigerator every 5 years or 10 years. They need to buy a mattress every 10 years. So LeBron James, uh, who's
Tom
the
Cruise, you name it. It don't matter.
LeBron James, Tom Cruise, uh,
It don't
Denzel,
matter.
Denzel Washington, all of those people combined cannot support our economy.
Right. Elon Musk.
E-
I mean,
e- even Elon Musk, who apparently he doesn't own any houses, he doesn't rent any houses. I don't know what he does.
right.
But if you combine the consumer impact of all of those people together, they can't support an economy. Because they're hoarding the money.
Exactly.
And as we listen to these economic theories about quote unquote job creation, the people that create jobs in this country are people who start small businesses.
Exactly.
They come up with a really great idea. They hire 5 people, 10 people, 20 people. If that idea is successful, they go on to have 100 people, 500 people, and at some point they could very well become a major corporation. And then, we gotta watch out for what they're doing at that point. But
Exactly.
this economy it's a consumer-based economy, people buying goods and services, and all the rich people put together on an island would not be able to support this economy in the way that it needs to for the people that work at McDonald's, the people that work at Macy's, the people that work at the car dealership, the people who fix
People
the
that do
tires,
public service. Think about the public service, fixing the
people that
roads, picking up the
fix
trash.
fixing
Like,
the
think about that.
fixing the roads. We need all of those people to participate in the economy, and I think we're missing a major talking point. We need to eviscerate the major talking point that the richest people in this economy are responsible for its capacity and its growth, and its everyday citizens, people buying their Metro card in New York or buying their LA Pass in Los Angeles. Those are the people who support this economy, and because we support one another. Uh, I didn't mean to go off on a rant there, but I'm so
That's all right
frustrated.
because you perfectly segued us. Like, for one, I want to just revisit the point that you made earlier about the whole notion of the tariffs and the court case that came about because that was small businesses who brought that case. So
Right.
you need to know like that's again how people on the ground can make a difference. You don't have to be a major corporation. It's not the major corporations that brought that case that just got the judges you know to overturn it and dismiss the appeal that the government made. That was small businesses that put that case into effect. So people
Wonderful.
need to realize.
Yeah, because so those people understand the Constitution is available for them, and they brought this lawsuit understanding what's available, what the rules are supposed to be, and how the rules are supposed to be followed. And as Americans, we need to understand what the rules are supposed to be, how they're supposed to be followed, so we can have a civil society and have the kind of justice that we are entitled to.
Exactly. And so, with that said, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen again and bring you to section 7, right? Where section 7 talks about all bills for raising revenue, that includes tariffs, right?
That's
Shall
right.
originate in the House of Representatives, but the Senate may propose or concur with amendments on other bills, right? So, again, this is where our current administration is usurping the powers granted to the Congress to actually um, impose these tariffs, try to raise money on their own. Even the whole notion of trying to find um, fraud, or even the most egregious thing I thought was you had Congress that appropriated money, and then the executive came in and was like, "Oh, I'm going to issue an executive order where that money can't go out," like what he did with USAID, right? So
Yeah.
so it's really ridiculous that clearly says all bills for raising,
Yeah,
right? But like you said, Congress is abdicating its responsibility by basically not doing their job and holding this president accountable to what their job is.
to what
So,
their job is, and I think it's shame on the Republicans because if they believe these policies are so important and would be so helpful to the American people, they should do it out in the open, and they should present an argument to the American people. We need to change these particular rules because changing these rules will benefit this particular constituency, and we think it's important. And they completely handed over all of the authority and power to the executive branch unnecessarily.
well, no, not
Unnecessarily.
necessarily. I don't even think that that's a good word. I think that it's really purposefully. That's what I think is a better word.
Okay.
They're
Yeah. Yeah.
purposely
Yeah.
giving that power away to a man who they've all knelt and kissed the ring and pledged fealty to, right?
Yeah.
So again, just to back up your point, I'm gonna go back to the exact document, right? Notice how it says here, John. It says every bill which shall have passed the House of Representatives and the Senate shall, before it becomes a law, be presented to the president. So automatically, just that statement, that clause alone shows you how our government right now is working backwards.
That's
Because
correct.
this is not Congress presenting the president with the bill. This is the president presenting the Congress with what he wants, and then them coming back to him and saying, okay, well, yeah, we can cut this, we can cut that, we can cut this to give you what you want, sir.
That's right. I think one of the things that we need to really look into is the power of the executive order is not limitless. And I think that the current administration is pretending that the executive order is a magic document.
Well, yeah. Yeah, as if it just like as if they're a dictator and whatever he says is law, which is not
Right.
how the country works.
The
Maybe in
executive
Russia, maybe in China,
right.
but not America, dude. Like what's going on with that?
Executive orders are supposed to give the executive branch leeway within the parameters of the Constitution itself.
Right.
So it's an opportunity for the executive branch to make a correction where they find there's some shortfall, but within the parameters of the Constitution itself.
Right.
It is not a blank check to do whatever you want. And I think what people should really be concerned about is that the American people who are interested in giving the president completely unfettered powers. I think you want the president to pursue the policies you think are important, but if in fact what you really want is for him to be able to do whatever he wants, I think we should look at those people with a tremendous amount of concern.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it should be a lot of concern, which is again why we're taking our time out right now to dig into this because we know it's getting to that point of official crisis time.
Yeah, yeah,
So I'm gonna jump to section 8 now, right? Because
yes,
this is where it really, lays out exactly a lot of the responsibilities of the Congress, right? And so since we're staying in Article 1 for this episode, section 8, right? And I'm gonna just go through it again. Like I said, this is a section that, a lot of us people growing up in the hood, we can relate to because we heard a lot about section 8, but
that's
that was
right.
housing. But this is Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts, and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. Notice again how this goes directly and drives home your point of these cats are just not doing their job at all.
Not at all. Not at all.
Not whatsoever, right? So to borrow money, right? And I'm gonna just now jump through it. I'm not gonna read through every last thing, but I'm gonna just jump through the important points, right? Regulate commerce, right? From foreign nations. So that would mean that they should be the ones actually negotiating these trade deals, not the president, right? Um,
Well, the
establish.
president, the executive branch can discuss what they'd like with the foreign nations because they're diplomatic relationships. But in order to impose the actual tariff, that would be the purview of the Congress.
Well, yes. And so again, that's why it says it right here. They're the ones who regulate commerce. So all of this business stuff should be regulated by Congress. We already touched on the rule of naturalization, so I'm gonna skip that one. Coin money, that's Congress. Provide for the punishment of counterfeiting the securities, right? So any
Mhm.
kind of securities fraud, that's the SEC that he's also trying to dismantle, right? Uh,
What do you call it? The Bitcoin, cryptocurrency,
yep,
all of that
yep.
could and should be
Establish
regulated.
post offices,
Yep.
right? So you know he also got involved with the post office last time he was in office.
Yeah.
Yep. To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors. That goes to the copyright laws that he
Copyright law.
also
So he's trying to dismantle he's trying to dismantle the copyright privilege in a inside of the United States, which is even if you don't like capitalism, the copyright privilege protects the creativity, um, and it protects commerce. You create something incredible, you get to benefit from it for a long period of time, and then at some point, then you can get some competition. They want to dismantle that, and that sounds like oligarchy, uh, fascism, and authoritarianism.
exactly, and it covers inventors as well. And it's just amazing that what they're doing it right in front of our faces too, and it's so diametrically opposed to this document to consume, right? Um, the inferior to the Supreme Court, right? The tribunals, right? To
Yep.
constitute the tribunal. So you also have their check on the Supreme Court to define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas, to declare war, to raise and support armies, to provide and maintain a navy. That's one thing I had no idea too. That even more so than just the president being in charge of the armed forces, quote unquote. Like this is a direct line right here, where the Congress is in charge of the Navy and
So
to make rules for the governor and regulation of the land for the naval forces, right? So you have all of these things that our Congress is responsible for, and you can look directly to it for what they're either doing or not doing right now.
so the thing, Jamel Bouic comments about this. The term commander in chief is a is pageantry.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a propaganda tool.
It's a title, and it has morphed into an etymology in this country as a real thing. But the commander in chief is really it's a hollow title.
Yes,
He is he is in charge of the army, but he doesn't regulate the army and the navy or the military for that matter.
exactly, exactly. So we have all of these things in this document, people, that we really want you to start understanding and realize that everything that is supposed to be being done right now is kind of being usurped and turned on its head, which is why we even titled our podcast "The Constitutional Crisis" because we are currently experiencing it, and there is no better time than now to get yourself immersed in it so that you know exactly what's going on, and you can also kind of like ride the stress roller coaster of okay, wow, what are they doing now? Who are they trying to deport now? What agency are they dismantling now? What money are they taking away now? Like, so you can ride that stress roller coaster for the next couple of years by knowing that there are pathways to fighting against all of these things. And that's what you're seeing play out from the court case that saw today with the small businesses fighting against the tariffs to even the immigration fights that are currently in the courts. And I must throw our prayer out and some good thoughts for the people that have illegally been deported at this point and are serving their sentences out in a whole other country or in a foreign prison
Yeah.
without having done or committed any crime whatsoever, except being in the wrong place at the wrong time or the wrong country at the wrong time. Um, so we gotta, continue to send, prayers out and blessings for those people to come back home safely and their family members, and just dealing with the tumultuous nature of what that must feel like. It's something that this document lays out. Like these things should not be happening.
They everything that they're doing is outside of the purview of their authority, and we every opportunity that we have to push back, we need to push back. because
Right.
what they're doing is not only cruel and wrong, it's illegal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, totally. Totally. And are we surprised though with the 43, was it 43 or 35 time convicted felon? I don't know.
What we're not we're
Have we
not
moved
so
past that?
no, I haven't moved past that. The he has presented as someone who, in his first term in office, he presented as someone who did not understand the Constitution, who did not understand the
Still
presidency,
does not. Still does
uh,
not.
probably still does not. Very often, the reports that I read from the various books that were written and the articles, that he would often just sort of muse, well, why can't I do that? Because he didn't it didn't appear that he had the grasp of the role of the presidency and the role of the executive branch in our democracy, which is a co-equal branches of government, which is the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. No one of those branches has greater authority over the other.
Right. It's
Most recently,
co-equal. It's co-equal.
co-equal branches of government. Most recently, uh, the talking points of this administration have been uh, to, to dismiss the judges and disparage them by calling them unelected officials
Right. If
when
the
they're
elected officials have more power.
as though the elected officials have more power and and as though the Constitution has no weight. The Constitution regulates that all three of y'all need to work together like a triangle, like a stool, and to hold up our democracy, each one of them needs to do their part consistently. And
Exactly. And the craziest thing about that, John, is that it's the Constitution that actually created even the position of the presidency. Because again, like that whole notion of a president did not exist. Like countries did not have presidents until
right,
America created that position.
right, and
And that now is a derivative of democracy being spread
right,
through America around the world, where now other countries may have a president and they actually engage in their own democratic voting processes. And even if some are quasi-democratic, whatever the case may be, that whole
that's
notion,
right.
that position was created by this Constitution. And again, because we're in Article One, as you can see, has not even been mentioned yet. So, so again, like I do have respect for the office, right? And in some respects, I even had respect for the Donald, right? Especially when he was building his propaganda machine of, licensing his name and showing people how to use what he had to get what he wanted, right? But the one thing where I had to lose some respect for him is that running a country is not like running a company. Like, yes, they both start with the letter C, but a
Mm,
country and a company are two totally different things. And too many of these people who are running companies equate their ability to manage companies and businesses in the same way that they think you can run a country. And that mentality is so off base and
yes,
ridiculous.
that's capitalism.
Right. Again, another
Capitalism
C word, another C word.
capitalism is a the basis of capitalism is you're going to profit for you, the owner of the company, or B, the shareholders.
Yes,
The United States of America needs to support its constituents and its citizens, regardless of what it costs. So, if you need a heart transplant and you're at the hospital, we need to fix your heart. We need to replace your heart. We need to put you on the machine. All that needs to happen regardless of the cost. And what we are rugged individualism is being pushed on us to say, well, that costs too much.
right.
Our humanity is quote unquote priceless,
Yes,
and the goods and services that we need as American citizens, we need to have them. You need road work, you need trash collection, you need what are those F-5 bombers, F-35s. If you're going to have an army or a military to protect us, we need all those things, and all those things come at a cost that we can't always, uh, you can't always curtail or budget or discount or shortchange. I mean,
Mhm.
just think if in fact the vaccine for the COVID-19, if someone said, well, the vaccine could like work with like 16% of the people if we put it out right now and we save some money. Why don't we do that?
Mhm.
So even if you weren't someone that was going to take the vaccine, if they made a shoddy vaccine because they wanted to save money, that's not what we need for a country. For a country, you need to spend whatever amount of money is necessary to make the best version of the vaccine so every potential life that you can save would be saved. And if you're not doing that, then go sell some widgets, go sell some tires, go sell Lamborghinis and Maseratis. Countries are to service the citizens. Every citizen should be protected, supported, and cared for by this country. And if you want to save money doing that, then you're not interested in all of our citizens. You're only interested in uh, narrow protected classes, and that's not what a country is. A country is all of the people um, being protected, all of the people being given access to justice, to safety, um, and you
Yeah,
can't.
and let's really make that clear and apparent to people because I'm going to go back and show people exactly what John is talking about because it's right here in the document. When you go to back to the beginning of it, and it says explicitly, we the people of the United
Yeah,
States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, which you're speaking to, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare. It doesn't like list specific types of people or just those that have money or just those who are wealthy. The blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. And
right.
so,
The preamble to the Constitution does not say shareholders.
right, right,
It
right,
doesn't say
right.
private equity. It doesn't say
Only
venture
voters that
capital.
voted for you. How about that one? How
Only
about that
only
one? Because
voters
that's
that
the
voted for
mandate,
you.
right? You got the mandate
Um,
from the voters that voted for him, right?
that voted for you. So all of those capitalistic warriors that are trying to excise. I think what's important to say to viewers in this particular administration has coalesced all the oligarchs, the corporate monopolists, and they're trying to extract all of your tax dollars into their pockets.
There you
That's
go.
that's why they want to run this as a business, so they can divvy up the fiefdom between
Exactly.
themselves. And that's not what's supposed to happen. What's supposed to happen is that the best person to design the most cost-effective jet, that's the jet we should be making. That's the train, the bullet train, the whatever those trains are, levitating trains. Those are the trains we should be having.
Right.
Um, in terms of life sciences, we should be developing things to help cure and treat people with cancer. Uh, we're not supposed to be doing this to line the pockets of the oligarchs or the corporatists. That's not the purpose of this. As a function of this, yes, people can and will get rich. So we're not saying nobody should have any money, but what the line that they're creating right now is an opportunity for themselves individually uh, to suck America dry, and we should not stand for that. We should not stand for that. Many people are making this reference that Elon Musk suffered greatly in his brush with the political class, and I say it is my belief that he sucked so much data out of all of those systems, he's going to profit from that even after he dies. And
Well, yeah, you know,
that's not right.
no, well, yeah, and again, like there's no way he could ever spend as much money as he's made at this point is on the way to possibly making $1 trillion in his lifetime, and I could care less. And I really hope he takes
I
his
could
little
I could care
spaceship
less as well.
into
But
space and gets stuck.
him being able to take all of the private government data and coalesce that into a large language model for his AI or for someone else's AI, that is absolutely egregious.
Oh yeah,
Um,
no doubt.
if not, if it is not actually illegal what he's done, it should be made illegal, and he should be pursued and prohibited from benefiting from it.
Well, yeah, we're gonna see how that plays out. And again, we always come to find out down the road that certain cultures look back on time periods and say like, oh yeah, this person needs to pay a price for what they did during that time period. So I'm not gonna wish no ill will on the dude, but at the same time, like, you know, what they say, the chickens come home to roost.
Chickens come home to roost.
So
I think he should. I think once it is discovered that he took the data that he had access to and is using it to profit personally, I think every piece of legislation possible should be mounted to prohibit him from doing so. Um,
well,
it's
that's gonna take a shift in the Congress itself. And hopefully,
yeah,
again, what we talked about earlier, we're getting more young people, again, people of more you know, communal, we the people ideology in those positions of power to make the necessary amendments and laws necessary, as well as to hold the co-equal branches accountable, then we'll see some kind of progress with that. But I'm gonna jump back to this other thing because this came up in section 9 for where I want people to understand what we're dealing with right now with your girl, the DHS person who didn't know habeas corpus, right? So notice in section 9, people see it right here, section 9, and it was still in Article 1 of the Constitution. It says the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless when in cases of rebellion or invasion the public safety may require it, right? So this is where people need to understand about Trump's enactment of the Alien Enemies Act and how
right.
he was able to then do these deportations. And where habeas corpus, which is the right that the people have
Yes.
process before they can be prosecuted or put in jail or sent away, this is what was circumvented.
Yeah.
And people don't even realize, like, and she, as the Department of Homeland Security, head did not even know. She said that this was the power that the president had.
So maybe we need to send her a copy of the
Right.
Constitution.
We need to definitely get her a copy of the Constitution so she can understand it, right?
But
And so
I think what bears noting is that the strategy appears to have been um, wiggling into this emergency act to suspend habeas corpus. So
yeah,
their claim of the invasion was the Venezuelans, which we have no proof of. We have no substantiated proof that there was a calculated effort of Venezuelans or Hondurans or anyone for that matter to come to our country to take it over. So people came, and I grant the administration that people came for nefarious purposes of trafficking narcotics and also trafficking humans. And I think that the policy should meet that and put it and stop it. That's what the policy should do. Um, to say that to make the line that if we deport enough people, the fentanyl and the human trafficking would stop is incredulous at best.
right, right. And so going back to it, no money shall be drawn from the treasury, but in consequence of appropriations. So this is what people are talking about when talking about the CR and this big beautiful bill that they're trying to get through, pass through reconciliation. Um, that's what the appropriations are by law, right?
Yeah,
Good.
no, absolutely. This uh, and 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 in the big beautiful bill, there are a number of provisions that are trying to circumvent the Constitution.
Well, yes, yes. The whole system is trying to be circumvented right now because again, it says the receipts and expenditures of all public money shall be published. And this goes back to your point about the taxes and how they want to access our tax money to do what they want with it and basically use us as the investors in their Ponzi scheme
That is exactly what they want to do.
of whatever they're creating, right? So this is where I wanted to really wrap this section up with this one and show people no title of nobility shall be granted by the United States, and no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of Congress, accept of any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatsoever from any king, prince, or foreign state. Didn't
Yes,
you just get a jet
the
from
jet. Well, they've circumvented that particular clause by granting the jet to the military. However, I think the media, I think the media needs to be very vigilant when this administration's term is up and this plane is in fact transferred to the presidential library. The media needs to be completely on top of this to determine whether or not the plane will be, whether the former president will be granted personal access to what will be one of the most sophisticated airplanes in the world. So never mind the economics of this. So this plane that's supposed to be free is going to have to be completely disassembled. So I want everyone in the audience to think about this. Think about somebody that gives you a quattropato Maserati sedan, but you're not sure if it's safe. So if somebody in your neighborhood says you can have my quattropato Maserati, I think it's 300,000 $400,000. You can have it for free, but there's a couple of things I'm not sure that work or not. So you have to have a Maserati mechanic take the entire car apart. And once they've taken the car apart completely, for whatever that costs, then you decide you want it to be blue or green or purple.
Right.
And then have those experienced, skilled technicians reassemble the entire car. So whatever that costs. So is the car free? The United States military is going to have to disassemble this entire plane, make sure it's safe, then it's going to have to outfit this plane with all the security features that are necessary for it to be an Air Force One. So even if you say all those people are working for the American government anyway, even if you grant that, they're going to be doing this job of putting the plane back together as opposed to doing the other job they could have been doing.
Well, yeah.
So either it's going to cost us time or it's costing money. So it is
Or
estimated
both.
that it's
And
estimated
unnecessarily.
that this free plane is going to cost $1 billion to retrofit.
Right.
And the best part of this is it could take as long as 3 years for this entire process to be completed.
Yeah. And you also have the blatant lie of it all, in which you, in one breath, say you want to bring jobs back to America, but you're not getting Air Force One built here in America. So it's
But
like what exactly what's going on?
it,
So
I,
yeah.
he's a stupid liar, and I don't know when we're going to stop pretending he's not stupid and a liar, and simply call him out as a stupid liar.
Well, I think however people come to the conclusions they come to, that's all their personal preference and the great thing about the freedom of America. Um, and it'll all really be written in history. Like the legacy will be written, and that's the
Yeah,
one thing for sure. The story will be told.
the story will be told unless
It
we're
cannot
all in
be
the camps.
televised, but it will be told.
Unless we all end up in the camps, the story will be told.
Well, even that, like they've always tried to put people in the camps, and it still hasn't worked to this day. They put us in bondage, and it didn't work. So here we
It
are.
didn't work.
So,
It didn't work. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
so I want to wrap us up with this one though. The last section of Article 1 is Section 10, and I'm gonna just give a brief synopsis of it because if you look at the words, it deals with how Congress is meant to legislate the states and prohibit the states from making their own treaties, alliances, or confederations, which then eventually was what the southern states did when they decided to secede and create the Confederacy, which comes out of that word, confederation. So you see it in the original document. They
Right.
even had planned for that
That's
to,
right.
come about. And then that's where Abraham Lincoln and the Union had to uphold the Constitution in order to keep America as a union.
Right.
So Section 10 just goes into those notions of, you know, no state shall without consent of Congress lay any imposts or duties on imports or exports. So states cannot impose their own tariffs
That's
on
correct.
goods, or export, with tariffs. And so where these states are being impacted by these tariffs of not even of their own doing, so you have
Yeah.
businesses that are being impacted by these unilaterally imposed taxes by a branch of government that doesn't even have the actual right to impose those taxes, and now
Right.
throwing the entire country into some kind of crazy world where we're trying to figure out exactly what's going on. So,
Economic suicide.
yep, yep. So here we are. And so everybody, please get into your constitution. I found this document online and I'll just share. And even at some point when we start posting our episodes, I'll put it in, some of our links to our, descriptions and synopses. And hopefully we'll
Absolutely. Yeah.
start to get some questions in from people. And if you
Yeah.
have any other questions, our next episode, we're going to dig into Article 2, which
Yes.
then finally goes into the executive branch. But John, you got any final words for the people today?
I think it's important to know that it's going to be okay. Uh, but we need to understand what tools we have to make this fight, and one of the tools that we have is the Constitution. So don't give up. Don't give up the fight. And we the people have an opportunity to overcome the impending tyranny that we're encountering. And I think in the end it'll be okay.
Yeah, and I'm gonna double down on what you just said and repeat in the immortal words of Public Enemy that the Constitution is our Uzi that weighs a ton.
That's right. That's right.
We need to bring it and keep understanding it and learning it and applying it and continuing to um, have it be what has every significant advancement in this nation has come through amendments to this document.
That's right.
We need to continue that tradition of continuing to make our nation what it was initially meant to be for all people concerned.
That's
And
right.
that's why we got to always go back and remember that this is about we, the people, having the power to invest in our own current as well as future possibilities. And every 2 years, we get that opportunity, and definitely locally in all of our elections around, in our states and in our cities. Please make sure that you're getting active and staying active and continuing to have your voice heard. Not just your voice, but your vote. Make sure your votes are heard. And on that one, we signing out.
All
Peace
right.
out, people.
Peace out.